We are in a active shooter situation. The shooter has not been apprehended, the suspect. So we'll talk about this today with Keith Smith on Real Talk with Keith Smith. We're following the news as closely as you guys. I know schools across the area have been canceled for today, private and public. And we'll highlight some of the things we do know, and we'll certainly highlight some of the things that are ambiguous or uncertain right now. I've been in touch with friends that are students at the university. I'll relay some of the stuff that I'm hearing from them. And we will try to, figure it out, but, try to ascertain as much information as possible.
We want to be here for you.
Yeah, we'll be a listening resource. Judah Wickower, Keith Smith, here across every social channel. Scott Aaronworth in Virginia Beach, hello. Judah Wickower, we can rock and roll when you're ready. All right, guys, good Monday morning. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us here on the I Love Seville Network, an audience that is quite large, and like you, we're following the active shooter circumstances that have transpired since late last night. We received the notification, as you guys did, right before 11 p.m. on a Sunday evening, the suspect still at large. Multiple media outlets are now confirming 3 dead and 2 injured. Multiple media outlets are confirming among the 3 dead, 2 of them wide receiver Lavelle Davis Jr. And Deshaun Perry. More information is being released slowly. I would encourage anyone that's following this scenario, and many of us are, not only locally, but I'm hearing from folks across the country, is to follow the UVA Emergency Management Twitter account. A lot of the news is originating there and then quickly being disseminated. The handle is at UVA_EM. Judah Wickower is our director. Keith Smith will welcome you to the show and put you on camera. Just a heartbreaking situation here.
Well, I think first and foremost, we need to keep the families of the 3 that were killed in our thoughts and prayers. And I think, if you don't mind, Jerry, I think we'll kind of start with a quick little 30-second silence so that you can pray or think or reflect any way you want to do that. But I'd just like to take a minute and just think and reflect on that. Then we'll jump right in. So if everybody wouldn't take a moment and do that, I'd appreciate it. So this is not good. And we want to be here to be a sounding board. I think, our chemistry works. We didn't even talk about this morning. I didn't even think there was a doubt in our mind that we weren't going to show up today and be part of it. I personally walked from the office to here today because I was not going to let this win or let this set who I am. It's just the way I am on that end of it. But, we're here. We were going to talk a little real estate, but I'm not so sure that's a good topic to talk about today.
I agree. I don't think that's the topic of today on a Monday morning.
So, I think we can throw it out there is what is folks feeling? What is folks thinking? What can we do with these two microphones and cameras help navigate this for you? My approach is maybe different than others. But it's much like August 12th, the following day, I grabbed the hand of my brother-in-law and walked down the downtown mall to show that hate wasn't going to win. So today, I'm not going to let hate win or violence win, and we're gonna stand tall and be here.
There's a Bolo. Be on the lookout, Bolo, for a 2001 Dodge Durango, license plate TWX 3580. Multiple media outlets, including the University of Virginia President Jim Ryan, have identified a suspect in Chris Jones, a former UVA football player. Again, 2 football players active identified as deceased or murdered. They are Lavelle Davis Jr. and they are linebacker Deshaun Perry. Both parents of the family have been active on Twitter. Multiple states here on the show. We will follow the news as you guys are following it. It is heartbreaking, Scott Aaronworth and Chad Wood, as you guys have identified, and what's really difficult to swallow, and I want to emphasize this, Charlottesville is not unique here. Activities and crimes and murders like this happen everywhere, not just in Virginia, not across the country, but across the globe. But it does seem of late we've had our fair share of heartbreak. August 12th, 2017 was a day that will forever live in infamy in Charlottesville history. We had just, 3-4 weeks ago, a murder on the downtown mall that was gang related. The week before that, we had a shootout in the Omni Hotel parking lot. We had the Yardley Love murder, the Hannah Graham murder, and we've had now what is undoubtedly some gun violence on grounds at the University of Virginia. Those details are slowly coming to light. I've touched base with students that are active at the University of Virginia. Many have been in the same place for the last 9 hours, 10 hours since this was released. I mean, heck, we're now approaching 12 hours of lockdown here. Some students are in a lockdown scenario in their dorm rooms. Other students, like a friend of mine, is in a lockdown scenario at a library. Please keep everyone in thoughts and prayers. We have students that are locked down in areas that are not their homes. I mean, places where food and water are not prevalent, bathrooms are not prevalent. I feel for the parents of these students.
Very much so.
Students that may not have cell phone chargers with them, so the batteries on their phones are now dead. And I can only imagine the panic as a parent myself that parents are feeling without being able to get in touch with their son or daughter on grounds at the University of Virginia. This is a difficult situation for this community.
It's a difficult situation. It's a difficult topic to talk about, but like any difficult topics, you need to talk about them, right? You need to have this conversation, and it's interesting until the moment that you just spoke. It's been a while since our youngest has been out of college, right? And as you were speaking, I was wondering what I would be thinking and what would I be feeling if Yvonne was at JMU or at UVA right now, and what would be my reaction? How would I, react to this? And it's interesting because you think you would want to react one way, calm, cool, collective, the former Marine security guard, the guy that's kind of been on the other side of this stuff in a very personal manner for a very long period of time. But once it's your children, it becomes a whole different animal. And it'd be really hard for me not to go physically there, but my wife would pull me back and keep me from doing that. But staying put until the all clear is given is absolutely hands down the best course of action forward on that end of it. But Jerry, I almost was reluctant to even say what I'm thinking, but I think this is a day to do that. It seems in the last 6 months, this has just got worse, right? We're just seeing more and more of gun violence that, since 1987, it's either I didn't hear it, I didn't pay attention to it, maybe it was there, or it just wasn't on my radar or whatever, but it just seems, and I just don't know the answer to that. Why is this happening now? Why is this surge, for lack of a better term, happening? And I'm dumbfounded. I don't know. Yona and I were talking about this on the way in. She goes, "What are you going to talk about today?" And I said, "Well, I had planned to talk about $1 million plus real estate thing, but obviously we need to talk about this today, and we need to see what the viewers and listeners are thinking and what we can do to help them through this."
I think something that needs to be prioritized considerably more, and unfortunately it's something that has not been prioritized. Maybe it's taboo, maybe there's a stigma associated with it, but the need to prioritize mental health and the need to prioritize talking with professionals. I think a collateral damage of the pandemic and COVID has been being in quarantine for 12 months, 18 months, away from peers and teachers and role models. And when you're in your teens, your early 20s, when you're a young adult, you're impressionable, your mind is still developing. And I don't think we truly understand the impact of having children, young adults, teenagers away from role models and mentors. And that's what's happened. And one of the reasons we have seen so much violence of late is the mental health and the lack of making it a priority. It's time to debunk this stigma or this taboo that mental health should not be discussed with professionals, with therapists, with counselors, with social workers. If you are feeling something and you're uncertain about it, talk to someone that you can count on and have this person or these key people walk you through it. We're going to reflect as Charlottesvillians and Albemarle Countyans and Central Virginians and Virginians and Americans, and just as people, we're going to reflect and we're going to say, you know what? Keeping impressionable minds away from teachers and role models for so long had a damning impact on a generation of people. A damning impact. And the gun violence is undoubtedly peaked, and violence in general, not even with guns, has become undoubtedly a problem. When you take kids away from leaders and role models for long periods of time, and you keep these impressionable minds in front of screens for long periods of time, this is a collateral damage of what happens.
So when you were in college, who was your role models?
I mean, I had a ton of role models.
Yeah.
Coaches.
Yep.
Professors, family. I mean, a ton of role models.
And maybe senior, folks that are in their fourth year.
Folks in my fraternity.
Fraternity.
I mean, yeah, a ton of role models.
So you're onto something on this, and and of course we don't. This is ongoing investigation that they need to catch the person who perpetrated this crime on that end of it, but I don't think you're that far off. I think there's maybe some lack of role models and therapy. I mean, I'll raise my hand. I'm a regular on therapy, not necessarily for the same reason, but I broke my back for the first time in '92. I'll be honest with you. I was swinging. How I understood to provide for my family was by physically working, and I couldn't do that for about a year. And you start thinking silly things like you don't want to be here any longer. Why am I here? This kind of stuff. And I realized that was not good, and I went out and sought therapy. And Yona and I, we do couples therapy all the time, but that's because we're together so often, we work so often together. Sometimes we forget how to talk to one another on that end of it. So we do that on a regular basis. But role models is interesting. And as you were talking, I was thinking, okay, so when I was 18, 19 years old, I was halfway around the world, right? Didn't see my family for half a decade on that end of it, but I always had a role model that was part of it. It was, somebody that was ranking higher than me, ambassadors, so forth and so on. There was always role models that to look to and to grow. But yeah, I think you're on track here. It's I think finding out the why and seeing what we can do as a society to help fix that is a big thing. I just don't know if we're going to get there. I just don't know if we're going to actually. I hate to be a Debbie Downer on a very downer Monday morning, but this isn't new for the state of Virginia, right? Virginia Tech.
There's mass shootings everywhere.
Did we get better?
It's not unique to Virginia. There's mass shootings everywhere. We need to. I think what we learn from this is we learn the importance of prioritizing mental health. We also have to consider the damage, and this is another taboo topic. Maybe we start considering the true damage of repeated head injuries. The traumatic, Claire Turney makes this comment, and I hope I'm getting your last name correct, Claire. We should talk about the impacts of traumatic brain injury on young people. And she's highlighting the repeated nature of a very violent game called football, which we love. But let's cut to the chase. It involves a lot of brain damage, repeated head injuries, and the PTSD that comes from this, from football. I think we need to discuss elements like suicide. These are taboo elements that should now be front and center. I think we need to discuss elements like the players that were around this shooting last night and championing them to go see mental health professionals.
I have a little experience with Division I programs because my daughter was a Division I athlete. I'm 100% sure that there is all kinds of mental health professionals talking to whoever was there, if there was other football players there. But you're 100% right on the head injuries. Excuse me. It's look.
Multiple media outlets now reporting on Twitter. This is literally breaking as I'm speaking right now, that the third victim is wide receiver Devin Chandler.
Yeah.
Multiple outlets reporting this on social media. He's a transfer from Wisconsin, confirmed by multiple media outlets on social media. Devin Chandler, now the third victim murdered last night. Lavelle Davis, Devin Chandler, Deshaun Perry. There are also 2 players injured. I'm looking online, and I'm only going to relay verified sources, media outlets, of the other folks that are injured. Stephanie, thank you very much for that text. Grateful for that. And this isn't even a topic that needs to be front and center. I think the likelihood of the season being canceled for UVA football is quite high. I think that's a likely scenario that's going to happen. I know that students at the University of Virginia are on lockdown in places like cafeterias and libraries and mechanical rooms around grounds. I want you as a mom and dad or as a viewer and listener to think about your son or daughter for now approaching 12 hours being on a lockdown scenario in a mechanical room without a bathroom, food or water, or a place to charge your phone to communicate with your parents. I'd like for you to consider the panic that you were feeling as a mom and dad if your son or daughter was a student at the University of Virginia during this. As a father, there's nothing more terrifying than fear or uncertainty when it comes to your child. And being a parent, anyone can relate to this, completely changes your outlook on life. It creates a sense of vulnerability that is so scary because there's this precious child, no matter the age, that is out there, that is your heart. So I've been following this since 10:47 last night, could barely sleep. Was fighting off tears a number of times. And that's another thing. Why do we even have to say now fighting off tears?
Cry. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Get it out.
Why do we not have
Get it out.
have these stigmas and taboos associated with vulnerability? And the sayings of like, be a man, man up.
Oh, is that what's on the feed?
Toughen up. No, that's not
Okay.
what's on the feed.
Oh. Yeah. So anybody who knows a man knows that, tear up, cry, get your emotions out. We've done this on the show more than once. We did it at the 9/11 show. I've sat across from you and watched you tear up on that. I've teared up on time, but get your emotions out. A good cry is actually a very therapeutic thing. You were mentioning going back to the suicide prevention. That's a huge thing, and if anybody out there that's listening or watching this that needs some help, please reach out. Jerry, you probably know that the number, that's a 3-digit number, it's 9911. Judah, do you know what the 3 digits, 8? I'll look it up when we do that, but there's a...
We have some breaking news here. Dr. Swanson, thank you. According to the UVA Emergency Management Twitter feed, that's the feed to follow, @UVA_EM, UVA Emergency Management Twitter feed. The shelter-in-place order, this was published less than 4 minutes ago. The shelter-in-place order has been lifted on grounds at the University of Virginia. A large police presence will remain, the handle relays to us. Again, that is breaking news there. The shelter-in-place order has been lifted. There is no indication on the feed that the suspect has been apprehended. However, the shelter-in-place order has been lifted on grounds at the University of Virginia.
988 is the suicide crisis number. 988.
Kelly Jackson confirms that a news conference is scheduled for 11 a.m.
Yeah.
11 a.m. news conference. Scott Aaronworth is indicating that there are 30 cop cars surrounding someone on Interstate 64 as we speak. This is crowdsourced
News.
reporting and news. Jeff Camerath, absolutely. Lockdown has been lifted. Thank you, Jeff, for putting that in the feed. If you guys are seeing stuff in real time that is from verified and trusted news sources, put them in the feed and I will relay them live on air. But please, I ask respectfully that you share stuff that is from trusted outlets only, please.
How you feeling?
I feel like it's the responsibility of the I Live Seville network to be here today to communicate with the viewers and listeners that follow the network. We have an audience that is larger than the news outlets. And my wife, when we talked this morning, our son stayed home. We made the decision before his school closed to keep him home, but she knew that I was going to come here. And it's responsibility for us to connect with the folks that watch this network and to relay information to them. And she's nervous. I mean, we're in downtown Charlottesville in a storefront that's absolutely exposed that says I Love Seville all over it.
That's exactly right.
I mean, literally. She asked us to lock the door, and I promised her I would. But she also realized that this is what we do. and she had no doubt that I was going to be here and work today. And when you have a following that this is this large, and that's what the network has, it's the responsibility to be here.
So we're coming up on show 400, and
And we're coming up on show,
thousands.
yeah, I've done like 2,500 shows.
And I'm sitting here, actually just looking at you and listening to you. It's really, you up for 400 shows for how many hours we spend together, which is quite a lot, right? You know, and I'll be honest, you know, sometimes I get a little pushback, right? But I'm sitting here listening to you and watching you do what you do, and I have nothing to add. I can't do any better than what you're doing.
I mean, I've been doing this, Keith,
I know that.
since I was
I'm
19 years old.
I'm trying.
22 years.
Yeah, but it's more than that.
You've been in real estate for 35.
Yeah, but this is more. There's about half a dozen shows that your heart pours out on the table, and this is one of them. And you know, you have the skill. Yes, you know how to communicate. You know how you're just unbelievable. But what I'm looking at right now is Jerry Miller. What I'm looking at right now is Jerry Miller's heart and soul pouring out into this microphone, into this cameras. And I don't have anything to add to it. I can't add to that. I really can't.
Kevin Yancey, multiple people putting in the feed. Mile marker 246 on Interstate 64 eastbound. 40 plus Virginia State police officers on scene with the vehicle surrounded. If there's anything you can find for us there, Judah, that would be fantastic.
I'm pretty
Virginia
sure that's
State
what that
Police, mile marker 246, Interstate 64 eastbound. I'll give that to you again. I-64 eastbound, mile marker 246, Virginia State Police. Anything that you can find from crowdsource, maybe Twitter or that handle, that would be fantastic.
Well,
Judah Wickhauer is our enterprising director
Well,
here.
we're going to find out in about 15 minutes, I think.
There's a news conference at 11 a.m. that the University of Virginia is releasing. Additional information. I also want to highlight this. The University of Virginia has done a fantastic job of communicating throughout this entire shooting. And I watched firsthand over the last 12 hours, this has now been going on for 12 hours, how the platform Twitter was utilized for getting news out in real time as quickly as possible. And I know we're all following the potential demise of this platform, but this platform is undoubtedly one of the best resources for live current events as they are happening. It is where the news is originated, and then it's positioned elsewhere. You just give me an indication when you want to jump in, J-Dubs. I'll follow your lead if you're noticing anything at all. A news conference is now on the horizon, the near horizon for the University of Virginia. I also want to highlight President Jim Ryan.
I was just going to do that.
In the 4 o'clock hour, the 4 a.m. hour, Jim Ryan was releasing an official statement. And Jim Ryan is the president of the school. And heavy is the head that wears the crown, is the saying. And he wears the crown that we call University of Virginia. And in the 4 a.m. hour, this man is releasing an official statement that is at what looks like somewhere between 500 and 1,000 words.
Oh, yeah. It also has, by the way, a link in it if you get a look on it for this, talking about student health and wellness website. And there's a hotline number to call in there. It's for the employees also. So take a look at that. The hotline number is 877-685-4836. So that's the UVA emergency hotline.
Multiple people are saying 64 East is closed.
Yeah.
Interstate 64 East is closed. Thank you for sharing that. Scott Aaronworth, I agree about Jim Ryan being a class act. we're going to have, this is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
And what I mean by the tip of the iceberg is we're going to have to navigate as a community a significant mixed bag of emotions. And I don't think this community is even healed yet from August 12, 2017. A month ago, we had a murder on the downtown mall. The week prior, we had a gunfight in the parking lot of the Omni Hotel. There was a shooting in Hardy Drive over the weekend that is now completely flying under the radar because of this University of Virginia shooting. Undoubtedly, there's a gang violence situation that's happening in the community. I've mentioned Hannah Graham and Yardley Love, Jesse Matthews. I want to highlight that these circumstances are not unique to Charlottesville. They happen everywhere. But from a Charlottesville and Central Virginia standpoint, don't you feel like this has been the eye of the storm lately? I certainly do.
That's what Yona and I were talking on the way in. It just seems like UVA and Charlottesville seems to be in the center these last couple of years, and I don't understand why. You know, it's not making any sense. But you know, and hopefully in about 10 minutes we're going to find out through this press conference that they probably caught the perpetrator, hopefully.
Jeff Kamrath sending a status update. Thank you, Jeff, from the Interstate 64 Twitter account. You guys are doing a heck of a job. Jeff Kamrath, I respect and trust you. Any viewers and listeners, trusted outlets only, please. This is from the Interstate 64 Virginia Twitter account. Update, eastbound on I-64, mile marker 246 in James City County. All eastbound travel lanes are closed. Expect a significant delay. Kamrath, thank you, sir. Jeff, thank you. You are looking at in James City County, which is the Williamsburg, Virginia area. This is where I grew up, James City County. Eastbound I-64, mile marker 246. Virginia State Police in heavy numbers. All eastbound travel lanes are currently closed. Avoid eastbound I-64 if possible. We're not speculating here at all, but we do know, these are facts that I can relay to you, that a significant Virginia State Police presence is on site, eastbound I-64. Eastbound I-64 is closed. The traffic is being, thank you Kevin Yancey, being routed off I-64 as we speak. A press conference on the near horizon for the University of Virginia. If you see anything on your end that needs to be out there, Judah, please pass it along to us. Just give us an indication and we can jump in. Viewers and listeners, if you can offer any insight onto the press conference and details, that would be appreciated. If you're just tuning into the program, multiple media outlets are reporting that Lavelle Davis has been murdered, a talented wide receiver. Deshaun Perry, a linebacker, has been murdered. And the Wisconsin transfer, Devin Chandler, is the third deceased victim. There are two other players that are injured. I'm hearing speculation of who those players are. I do not want to report who the injured players are until I'm hearing it on an official media credentialed Twitter outlet. I also want to highlight the value of local reporters. There were multiple reporters literally on location last night in sub-freezing wet weather, live tweeting what they saw with their eyeballs on grounds at the University of Virginia. Some of the most important positions in our community, EMTs, police officers, firefighters, teachers, local reporters, are drastically underpaid. Yet these positions are paramount.
And they're going away.
To maintaining community safety. There are eyeballs on the street. So please thank the reporters who offered attention to everything that was going on. Many of the positions, yes, Keith, are being eroded by corporate juggernauts trimming payroll off balance sheets.
Yep. The newspaper is number one, Daily Progress.
I agree 100% with what you said, Kelly Jackson. Shootings like this happen every day, but it's it's catching people's attention in Charlottesville because for so long there wasn't any violence. I want to add to that, and this is unfortunate, but this is the nature of where we are today. So much violence in Charlottesville in my 22 years of being in this community has been almost compartmentalized to a few small areas of the community.
And underreported.
And when that violence was compartmentalized to a few small areas of the community, people chose to ignore it or not acknowledge it. It wasn't until the violence was decompartmentalized and on the downtown mall, in the Omni Hotel parking lot, on grounds at the University of Virginia, that it became an issue or a problem or a talking point or dominating the news cycle. And that really is just an unfortunate element of life. When violence is compartmentalized to financially margined neighborhoods, people sweep it under the rug and say, hey, it's okay. But when that violence then comes to the grounds of the University of Virginia or the downtown mall or a $500 a night parking lot, then people make a big deal of it. That is a microcosm of what is so much wrong in not just Charlottesville, but America today. Neil Williamson is sharing a link to a VDOT camera, Virginia Department of Transportation. That's in the comment section of my personal Facebook page, Judah, from Neil Williamson. I don't know if there's anything that you could possibly do with that for the show. If there's not, I completely understand. This is a live show, a completely live show, so we're adapting to you guys. Neil, thank you for sharing that link. That link is in the comment section of my personal Facebook page right now. Another thing, you just give me a heads up if you want to jump in anytime you want here, J-Dubs. I will adapt to you, sir. Anything on your mind over there, Keith?
No, I mean, I'm just, again, I'm just sitting here in amazement, one, watching you and listening to you, and I'm following the same Twitter feeds and Facebook feeds of the reporters and the trusted news sources, and I think we've got about 5 minutes to fill here before we find out what the what's the next step here. To your point of if it happens in certain sections, in certain parts of the city or the county or the country, it doesn't get spoken about that much. But when it happens in more affluent areas, because that's what we're talking about here, it hits the front news pretty quickly. We should be looking at this all across the board. Look, this is, at its heart, this is a real estate show, and obviously today is not the day for that. But it's really no difference between housing affordability, right? And we've been talking about this on the show for a while, is that this separation between the haves and have-nots are growing, and the less fortunate than us are here. And we need to really take care of the other person, right? And it just seems a lot of that is going away, and I just don't know why. I know everybody on this network, everybody here, we try to reach out to somebody who's less fortunate than us and offer any help in any way, shape, or form that we can do that. But, you're 100% right. It goes back to my comment is, it seems like the last 6 months this has just been growing, and we've got it's, I'm actually trying to hold back some emotion and some tears here on it. I know I said earlier I shouldn't do it, but, I've just keep on thinking what I would be thinking if my youngest daughter was in the middle of this right now. What would I be doing, and how would I be feeling? And my heart goes out to the families of the son or daughter that's locked in that utility room that they can't reach. The terror that they must be feeling and the terror that they have to go through is unimaginable. That being said, I'm confident, I know, that this community will get through this.
The live stream to the press conference, we'll see if we can air the press conference live here during this show. Stephanie, we're going to see if we can air that press conference. Multiple people are asking if we can do that. I understand that we have infrastructure and capabilities that other outlets do not here. I'm going to follow your lead on that. You have the link. I'm completely comfortable if you give me the heads up, and I'm speaking viewers and listeners in real time to our director, Judah Wickhauer, if we can we can even interrupt this broadcast to air the live stream live from the press conference. But I'll follow your lead, okay? This is completely in your hands. You let me know. If we can get the live stream here, the press conference is about 2 minutes away, J-Dubs. Completely in your hands here, J-Dubs. We will let you know if we're airing the live stream of the press conference with what's happening at the University of Virginia. Scott Aaronworth, thank you very much for sharing that link. There's so much to unpack with this story. I think how these stories, and I've been in my first job out of the University of Virginia was as a news reporter at the Daily Progress. I've also worked as a broadcaster in television for NBC 29 and as a broadcaster in radio for Monticello Media and for ESPN Radio. And often how these stories develop, the first 12 hours are often who, what, when, where, why. And then as the stories evolve, then you start unpacking aspects of the story, like the anthropology of it, the sociology of it. How did we get to these circumstances? You start highlighting elements like mental health. You start highlighting elements like gun violence. You start highlighting elements like the impact of quarantine and the collateral damage of quarantine, the collateral damage of screen time. You start highlighting elements like bullying and violence seen as children and how that transpires into adulthood. So I think you'll start seeing elements of this in the vernacular of the news cycle as the story matures. I'm completely in your hands here on the live stream. You can even jump in from a conversation standpoint if we don't want to text here. Just spoken word is faster than the Facebook message. You tell me what you want to do. Go to a 3-shot, get the microphone in front of you, and we can offer the viewers and listeners some insight into what's going on. Please.
And anything I can do to help, Judah?
I don't think so. Okay. You follow the live stream closely. We can even jump in. Do you think we can jump in? Can we go mic in front of you so the viewers and listeners can hear, and then get you on camera? Judah Wickhauer is literally adopting on the fly. Neil Williamson is saying I-64 East totally stopped according to the camera link. Thank you, Neil Williamson, for that. Thank you, Scott Aaronworth, for sharing that as well. J-Dubs, an update from you if you could, sir.
I'm not seeing any video on
They haven't started it yet.
on the news conference yet, so they may be setting things up, getting ready to go.
Do we have the capability of airing the press conference live here?
Possibly. Give me a second. I'm gonna go back to YouTube.
All right, the live. We're now having
connected.
a stream. I'm seeing the stream up.
Yeah. So am I.
So you tell me what we can jump in with that?
Possibly. Give me a minute.
Okay, absolutely fantastic. I'm seeing Tim Longo and Jim Ryan on the stream. Ryan addressing folks as we speak. Judah's going to see if we can highlight the press conference here on the I Love Seville network for viewers and listeners. Thank you, Suzanne, for that update as well. I'm very grateful for the viewers and listeners with the updates that are happening. Thank you, Scotty Aaronworth. We appreciate you, sir. Thank you, Kelly Jackson. Dan Pettit, good morning. A lot of folks on the feed here. J-Dubs is going to, we believe, interrupt this broadcast to air the live stream press conference. Brian Yeagle, good comment from you on Twitter. Appreciate that comment. Man, this is your thoughts, J-Dubs.
I'm trying to get the stream connected.
What are your thoughts on that?
One of the good things about having hearing aids is I'm actually listening to it, and I'll jump in if they announce catching. They caught the perpetrator.
Okay, you want to give updates in real time then?
I'm going to try to do it.
Okay, please do. Thank you, Kelly. We are looking to make that interruption here. Jim, Ryan, and Tim. I'm seeing Tim Longo, the police chief at the University of Virginia here on the presser. We'd love to relay this to you in real time, literally adapting on the fly here with our technology. Any updates from you there, Keith?
No, not yet.
City of Charlottesville was sent home today, its employees. Yes, City Hall government. Thank you, Juan Sarmiento, King of Transportation, for that update. My understanding is much of City Hall, in fact, all of City Hall is closed. Or the employees are off. So were Albemarle County Public Schools, Charlottesville Public Schools, many of the private schools, if not all of them, were closed. Eastbound 64 traffic completely closed. Kelly Jackson is saying that Jim Ryan is not saying whether the suspect has been apprehended or not. Let's get that off if we could, please, because that's being picked up by the microphones there.
The entire university community.
Thank you, Kevin Higgins, for that update. J-Dubs, can we jump in with that?
Can we jump in with what?
The press conference, the live stream.
I'm working on it. I'm trying.
Yeah, so again, I'm listening it here at the moment to match what Kelly has said. He's not naming the suspect at the moment.
Any updates? He has named a suspect. He's
No, I
not
meant as far
indicating
as
whether they've been apprehended.
or not. Yeah.
Yeah. A suspect was named early hours of this morning. We are getting information that some of those players that have been injured, one of them in the wide receiving corps of the University of Virginia. I'm going to wait until an official outlet offers verification on the injured players who were also shot before making, I am seeing, yes, the conversation about the other players. J-Dubs, how you looking there?
Still working on it.
What are you seeing over there, Keith?
At the moment, nothing that's, as far as the apprehension, it's just going over what has happened to date.
What's on the mind over there?
Yeah, it's. I'm getting a lesson in live news communication here. Yeah, it's. Again, this is the time to be thoughtful of the families and friends that the families and that have lost their children, because that's what they are. And support folks like Jim Ryan. The comment that you meant earlier, you know, I don't. And I'm not going to say this lightly, but it's this horrible thing that it's happening. But I'm glad he's at the helm. Very much so glad he's at the helm.
Jim Ryan, the president of the University of Virginia, has
and I'm trying to get
a long sleepless night. Undoubtedly.
Trying to get my hearing aids and my earphones here working.
I'm not going to report that the two injured players and who they are. That has not been confirmed. I'm being bombarded with information from viewers and listeners of the injured players. I am not seeing that yet from official news outlets, so I will not report the injured players and who they are until it's officially verified from news outlets. Tim Longo now on the live stream. Thank you, Scott Aaronworth. We appreciate you, Scott. Keep it up. Yeah, I'm hearing the same thing, Scott. Why the football team was there, and that the football team was on a field trip to DC and coming back from that trip. I've heard the same thing on that. Please keep the updates coming, viewers and listeners, if you could. Vanessa Parkhill, I feel the same way about Tim Longo, to have him in our community.
Oh, without a doubt.
The University Police Department chief. How are we looking over there, J-Dubs?
We'll see.
You think we can do the interruption here?
Maybe. Let's see.
What are we, T-minus? If you can give a countdown to the viewers and listeners?
I mean, I'm just going to work on this.
Okay, you get it. Is your mic on?
Yeah.
Okay, we just got to speak up so they can hear you. Kelly, I completely agree about them doing an amazing job communicating to students and staff. The initial tweet of hide, run, fight was an impactful one. I know it caught a lot of people off guard when an official safety Twitter account, police associated Twitter account, is telling followers to hide, run, fight. But those are protocol measures used for active shooters. The first step is to hide. The second step is to run. The third step, unfortunately, if you encounter the active shooter, is to fight. Folks were caught off guard by that, but that is standard protocol. Kelly, I agree. I thought they did an absolutely amazing job communicating to students throughout all this.
I'm going to try this, but I don't
All right,
know.
so Judah's going to try to interrupt the broadcast here. When are we going to go? Can you give him a countdown, please?
I just went. I don't think it's working. I'm going to try something else.
Okay, so you're coming back to us because I'm seeing, so no luck with that?
No luck with that.
Okay, Keith Smith, what are you hearing from the press
I'm
conference
just
there?
listening to
Give us a recap, side-by-side updates.
Longo's going through, Chief Longo's going through where they, at the moment, I just got my hearing aids connected to it, that they found the victims in the bus. So this was actually shooting happened inside of a bus.
Yep.
Close quarters, not outside the bus.
You're our eyes and ears for the press conference. Relay what you're hearing, please.
Got it.
What else do you hear?
So Longo is talking about how he's communicating with the public through Twitter, through email, getting out messages to the families directly and to the young people.
Multiple people are saying from the press conference.
I know personally Chief Longo, and I'm watching him.
Okay.
He's emotional.
I'm going to try this.
You're going to try it? Judah's going to interrupt here with the presser. Just use your words, man. You got to communicate here. Okay, we got the presser live. I'm seeing it on screen here on the show. Is that what you're seeing there, J-Dubs?
This is not ideal. I can't tell if they can hear anything because I'm forced to keep it.
Viewers and listeners, can you
Focused on
hear the
that.
press conference on the show?
So he's at the moment talking about securing arrest warrants.
Keep going, Keith.
Yep, I'm waiting to hear the charges. Keep going, Keith. Yep, I'm waiting to hear the charges.
All right, there's no audio on that press conference, Judah.
I didn't think so.
What's
All
that?
right.
You got to speak up.
I'm going to keep working on this, Jerry.
Okay. You have
So
to
he's at the
communicate
moment
in
giving
these
a
times
description
here.
of Mr. Jones as he's
Okay.
referring to him.
So is there an opportunity to get audio Yes or no?
Not right now.
Okay, thank you very much.
So he's talking about the description: blue jeans, burgundy jacket, red shoes.
So what he is saying, that they do not believe they have the, that's actually a good idea, Kevin Higgins. Put the presser on screen, Judah. Get the great idea, Kevin Higgins. I think we can do it this way. Get the press conference back on screen like you were doing there.
Listen to it like this.
Tell me when you have that on screen, J-Dubs.
So he's describing the vehicle, the license tag. I didn't get a chance to write it down, but it's in the feed and everything. And he's talking about contacting.
All right, it's up.
With audio.
No.
Okay. Okay, that's on screen? Right.
We just received information.
Keep our mics hot. This is Tim Longo speaking. They received information that suspect's in custody?
This is interesting information that he's talking about right now.
Just a moment to thank God. Breathe a sigh of relief. Mr. Jones, also had come to the attention of our threat assessment team because he was involved in a hazing investigation of some sort. I don't know the facts and circumstances of that investigation. I know that it was eventually closed due to witnesses that would not cooperate with the process. But through the course of the threat assessment team's investigation, we learned of a prior criminal incident involving a concealed weapon violation that occurred outside the city of Charlottesville in February of 2021.
Your audio is behind.
What's interesting about that case is he's
There
required
you go.
as a student at the University of Virginia to report that, and he never did. And so the university has taken
There
appropriate
you go. Suspect is in custody.
administrative charges through the university's Judiciary Council, and that matter is still pending adjudication.
So you're about 10 seconds behind.
Please.
Thought it important to share that information with you, to let you know that he had been called to our attention, and to answer any questions you might have about that. I want you to hear that. I want you to hear that from me, not hear it from someone else. So I'll stop there, and we'll take any questions that you might have.
I'll call him out. We have a couple questions, Major.
Chief or President, can you discuss where the field trip was going, the affiliation of people that were on that bus and on that field trip, and if the suspect was part of that trip or stepped onto the bus?
Thank you for the question. The information we have at this time is that the field trip was associated with a class, and the individuals that have been named were part of that trip to see a play. That is, to see a play associated with the class. So it was a class field trip. I do not have those details.
Do you know what class it was?
I do not. I'm sorry?
You know what play it was?
I do not. We're seeking out all of that information. As you can imagine, the students are quite traumatized by the tragic events.
Play in Washington, D.C.
I do not have the exact location. We are finalizing all of that.
The three victims who died were football players.
So the play was in Washington, D.C.
Where and how was this happening?
I have not been shared that information yet, and it will come a point in time when we will share that information, I'm sure, but now is not the most appropriate time. We're not releasing information about the patients who are still in the hospital at this time. I can't speak for student affairs. The University Police Department had no contact him with this. The University Police Department is one of many people that's on that multidisciplinary threat assessment team, and we provide some of the background with respect to individuals to come before that team, but to my knowledge, we did not have any contact with Mr. Jones with regard to that incident. My understanding is ballpark about 25. Don't know how he got away or how it was that he fled the scene, and I don't have information with respect to how he was apprehended.
Go ahead, sir.
We're in the process of doing that now. Yeah, not at this time.
When and where did the third victim die if the two were found dead on the bus?
Third victim was transported to the medical center and died there.
Time for just
Just a couple more. Do we know Mr. Jones's status? At one point, he was on the football team. He was still a student here as of this morning. Was he still affiliated with the football team?
He was still a student, but to my knowledge, he was no longer on the football team and hadn't been on the team for over a year. And the two other victims were students.
Time for two more. Go ahead and then walk up.
Did the students know at all the suspect prior to this relationship?
I don't know to what extent they had a relationship with him. I don't know that for sure.
Final question, Ryan.
Chief Longo, you personally have been involved with so many tragedies that have happened here in Charlottesville. If you could just talk, I don't know if you've been able to process those feelings at all, what this community has been through the past decade or so, and how this impacts all of them.
I don't know that I've really had time to process that to the extent that you speak of. I can tell you that the people that are standing behind me now, it speaks for itself, how we get through these things. These agencies that are represented here were on these grounds very quickly. I'll try to do better next time. That's all I have for right now. We can't do this alone, and we obviously haven't. And we
Found on campus, off campus at least.
Or where he's in custody, or who was brought into custody?
Well, I can tell you to the best of my knowledge, he was not found on campus. I cannot tell you where he was located or where he was taken into custody or where he's located now.
State police take him into custody. We'll have more information on that. Thank you all very much. We'll have more information as we have it. Thank you all very much for coming today.
Okay, Crusher's done. You can come back to us. Watch mic levels, especially one that was turned up over here. All right, we back on screen?
Yeah.
All right, we're back on screen here. That was a live look at the press conference Jim Ryan and Tim Longo had. Thoughts from the press conference so far? Let's stick with facts here.
Yeah, so I've been taking some notes as I was listening to my hearing aid. First and foremost, thank God he's been captured and he's in custody. That happened, was noted I timed it at 11:14. I was listening to Chief Longo. One of the things that caught my attention was that the suspect was actually looked at from the threat assessment team back in fall in 2022 of this year, specifically September. Apparently there was some threats and some hazing. He didn't go into it in any great detail, but what I thought was interesting, what Chief Longo stated, was that apparently there was a concealed weapons charge back in December of 2021, if I have my notes, yes, 2021, and apparently he failed to report that, which he's required to do. Now, if somebody is going to perpetrate some sort of crime as he did here, notifying somebody that he was charged with concealed weapon was probably not what he's going to do. So, but that was what my takeaway on that note. I think it was very good to see the state trooper walk up to Chief Longo and apologize I interrupted, but to let Chief Longo know that he's in custody, which is a good thing. We can start our healing process, and but they were very much so talking about the investigation process, and the reporters were asking very good questions, but unfortunately most of them they couldn't answer because they're in the middle of the investigation. So the good news is we have the suspect in custody. And the good news is there's a lot of folks working hard on this. He was rattling off all the agencies, the federal, state, and local agencies working on it. The president reiterated that crisis hotline to call. So if needed, please call. Don't be stoic. If you need to make a phone call, make a phone call. Get some help. Get somebody to talk to on it. But hats off to police. Hats off to the folks in the state, the police department, and law enforcement across the board. They put the man in custody.
Natural questions that I think we all will be asking this. Here are natural questions. Natural questions I have. I would imagine you guys would have similar questions to me. What led, and Jim Ryan just said in his press conference that the alleged murderer was a football player, but has not been on the football team
for
over a year. Mm-hmm. A natural question as a human would be this.
Why?
What has led or motivated a teammate to shoot,
and kill,
injure, and murder other teammates? That's a natural question. A follow-up to a natural question like this: is this a result of hazing gone wrong? Did the alleged murderer, was he hazed in any capacity by teammates? These are natural and logical questions to ask. Why is a teammate shooting other teammates? What activities led to motivate him to murder people? Natural questions we should be asking. These are culture questions. Other questions that are natural to be asked. Is the season canceled? Will we see the football season canceled now? I think those are natural questions. Other questions to be asked. Tony Elliott is new to the job, the head football coach. The alleged murderer hasn't been on the team for over a year. So this is not someone that Tony Elliott has brought to the program. In fact, it was from the previous regime. How is accountability allocated with something like this if it is a program culture concern that motivated this murder?
And why was he even there? Right? If he hasn't been on the team for a year and this was a team-sponsored event, what is he doing there at 10 o'clock at night, 10:30 at night?
I think what happened was he knew the bus was pulling in.
Yeah.
So he showed up as the bus was pulling in. So I don't think he was there. I think he arrived to meet the bus.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
At this point, we still need to be thoughtful and prayerful of, as Longo and President Ryan said, of the families that are going through this horrible tragedy in their lives. But I found it awfully odd, and I was, that the word hazing was used more than once.
Yeah, I mean, often what happens here is, you've seen this in the National Football League with Richie Incognito, is a good example when he was with the Miami Dolphins. Oftentimes, initiation rituals go well beyond initiation rituals, and they go into downright criminal when it happens with activities in the locker room. Hell, we saw this about a month ago locally with one of the local programs here.
Well, all you have to think of is the Rolling Stones article with the fraternities.
That was proven to be a farce.
Was it proven to be a farce?
Yeah, nothing in that article proved to be true. The author ended up making the entire article up.
So then
In fact, that was my fraternity that was named in the Rolling Stone article.
So
and I remember when reading that article with my fraternity brothers, we realized immediately that this was completely BS, and it proved to be made up by the author.
There you go. I stand corrected.
Yeah. Yeah. She, in fact, has lost her job. First degree, you need premeditation. If there is proof of that, it will be increased to first degree murder. Scott Aaronworth, the attorney, thank you for that. In fact, Scott Aaronworth, the attorney, is saying he's a criminal attorney. It's automatically charged as second degree until they can determine if it's first degree murder. All right, that's excellent stuff from Scotty Aaronworth, the king of Virginia Beach. Scott Aaronworth, we love you, Scott. He says it's automatically charged as second degree murder until they can determine if it is first degree murder. With first degree murder, you need premeditation. If there is proof of that, it will be increased to first degree murder. Scott, here's a follow-up question for you, sir. If the alleged murderer, the suspect, was hazed by football players and these athletes, does that hazing count as something that is premeditated? Hazing and abuse in the locker room he experienced, would that lead to second degree being elevated to first degree, sir? I'm curious of your take on that.
So we're saying that the folks that were murdered, hazed the suspect, and that raises it to first degree?
That's what I'm asking the attorney. Yeah, that's what I'm asking the attorney.
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly, I'm not an attorney, but if the fact is that he met the bus there with a loaded weapon, pretty sure that was premeditated. It's not going to take much I think, to go from second degree to first degree. I mean, if that's what happened.
I think with something like that, Kevin Higgins, I do not think the shooter was on the trip to D.C.
Yeah.
Jim Ryan indicated that the suspect was not on the football team for over a year.
Yeah.
So I would not imagine that this suspect was on a team trip to D.C. to go see a play. They were on a trip to D.C. to see a play, a theater play. So I would not, and I don't want to use words like assume, but I do not anticipate that the suspect was on the bus. What I gather from the utilization of common sense is the suspect met the bus as it was arriving back to Charlottesville. Vanessa Parkhill, you're correct. Vanessa Parkhill they said in the press conference that the trip was for a class. So it doesn't seem like it was a team trip. They were there to see a play, right? Going there to see a play. Neil Williamson, class trip, not a football event, a class trip that involved a lot of football players.
Which this suspect may have been part of that class.
Possibly.
May have been part of that class. He may have been on that bus.
Neil Williamson, thank you, next page.
But all this is part of what Chief Longo was saying, is in the investigation.
Could you see what the viewer slid under our door there and bring that to me if you could, please? I'm just curious to see if that's anything that pertains to the investigation. You can just slide that over to me. Thank you kindly. Neil Williamson, that's a great question. Thank you. Go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, so I mean, this is what Longo and this is what everybody says during the initial hours of some type of investigation like this is, it'll start maturing and facts will start coming out over time. We're making, as you said, we don't want to use the word assumptions, but we're making some assumptions. So we know that it was a class trip. It was not a football team event. Is that a fair statement?
We're looking for that information.
Yeah.
Multiple folks are saying it's a class trip. So perhaps that's how the young man the alleged murderer was there.
Yeah.
If it's a class trip. Reports are saying that the suspect has been Jason Halloran. I respect you tremendously. Can you link to those reports before I relay that comment online? Jason, I would certainly want to report what you were saying on the show. But if you can link to an outlet that is reporting this so I can report it with justification or with the backing of the outlet. Before I make this comment, which very much pertains to this investigation, this is crowdsourced news here. And in a lot of ways, folks, this is the future of news at the local level. Utilization of eyeballs and many people using social media at the same time to help figure out news with one platform that has a large reach, aggregating all that content and relaying it and delivering it to you succinctly and clearly. I'm getting information in real time in the studio, slid under our door. Jason Halloran, if you can link in the comment section the comment that you just relayed to me so I could relay it to the viewers and listeners. Amanda Haney Perkins, you're exactly right on that. The show is currently airing on 15 Facebook pages, 15 Twitter accounts, LinkedIn, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and will soon be syndicated across every social channel out there. So we're doing our best to aggregate all the content at once.
So I'm following the New York Times, and it looks like the football team is going to be doing a press conference here shortly.
Okay, details that you can relay to us from
right
that.
now,
What's the time saying?
It's not. It's on a hurry up and wait. But it's at the moment, if it jumps in, I'm listening to it on my hearing aids here. But it looks like there is another news conference is about ready to get started.
Jason Halloran, the New York Times is reporting as of 1 minute ago that the suspect is in custody after 3 University of Virginia students, all members of the football team, were killed. That's 1 minute ago from the New York Times. So the Times is my friend, contradicting this comment here. Scott, that's a very good question. That's a very good question. Scott Aaronworth asks, why was the suspect still in school? Fair question. Why was this suspect still in school as a student? Very fair question.
Based on the notes that Longo was saying about the investigation, and he didn't, obviously it came out, this concealed weapon recently that was in December of 21, charge anyway. I don't know if he was convicted or not of that charge, but there was an investigation that, according to Longo, went in fall, September 2022. He used the word hazing, and they had the threat assessment team, and it was done by the Office of Student Affairs on that end of it. So there is a press conference about ready to get started, and it looks like they're still setting it up. My assumption, based on reading the New York Times link, is that is UVA football, but I have no text in what I'm looking at the moment.
I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised at this moment if the remainder of the football campaign is canceled.
I mean, this is all over BBC. It's all over Austrian news, which I track because my wife is Austrian.
You got 2 football games left. Coastal Carolina,
I can't
Saturday.
I can't see how they could.
I can't see how that game happens. Yeah. And then Virginia Tech to close the season. You're looking at a football team that's 3-7, not bowl eligible. I would not be surprised if this season is canceled. I understand that your source is saying that, Kevin Yancey, and I respect you tremendously, Kevin Yancey. I do not want to relay anything on air unless it's been backed and verified by credible media outlets that are putting their journalistic credibility on the line. Michelle, thank you for that comment, Michelle. Comments coming in fast and furious here. We will continue to stay on air. We'll take a break in a matter of minutes, and at 12:30 come back with the I Love CVille show. We're relaying as much information to you as possible. Longo did confirm. Exact words were the suspect in custody.
Oh yeah, I can absolutely confirm that. I watched it live as the state trooper pulled Longo aside off of the podium, whispered in his ear. Longo came back, said was very emotional that the suspect is in custody. Paused for a moment to say a quick prayer, and then went on with the
conference. Like I said, I'm watching the New York Times from some other news conference is about ready to start. And at the moment, my assumption, based on reading it prior to clicking on it, was this was in reference to the. It's either going to be the AD or the football coach, either one of the two. But it's a sports-related.
But imagine that's the athletic director.
I would imagine it's the AD.
Especially since the football coach has been on the job less than a year.
Yeah, but I'm waiting for it to go live.
We have the shooter is in custody.
11/14, according. I wrote it down when Longo said it.
Will be charged with 3 counts of second-degree murder. The shooter. A sigh of relief can be breathed. We all have the questions of how the student had a gun, why he had a gun, was it registered, was it licensed? All those questions I'm asking as well.
And how did the fall investigation go? Right, I think there's going to be some questions about that. How the fall September, as Longo said, hazing and the threat assessment team. What he did say, and I'm reading some of my quick notes here, there was no actual threats made, so that was part of the reason maybe it did not proceed any further than that. I wonder, another question I'm asking is, other than if he was on their, to use Chief Longo's words, he's been on their radar for a while. Why did he get off the football team? Was it because of playing, or was it because of something else?
Well, he was a walk-on, so was not a scholarship player. Mm-hmm. Was not a highly touted recruit. I think we're going to have a lot of questions. A lot of questions. Chad Wood, we're wondering the same. Multiple people are wondering if he was on the class trip or if he waited for the bus to arrive. I think that's a fair question. Was he on the class trip or did he wait for the bus to arrive? Fair question. Other questions I think that are legitimate are this. Is this in retribution to hazing gone wrong? Is this in retribution to any kind of hazing or team violence gone wrong? I think that's a fair and natural question to have. Fair and natural questions to have are, how will this impact the remainder of the season, football-wise? Fair and natural questions that I think all of us are having right now are mental health and the need to prioritize mental health, the need to stand up to bullying. Bullying is paramount. The need to debunk the taboo that comes with speaking with counselors and therapists and social workers. Is that official, Chad? Is the basketball game officially canceled tonight? If you could link to that, that would be appreciated, sir. We appreciate you, Chad Wood. I would like to get some news out on that. We understand the responsibility we have here.
I'm not seeing anything on any of the feeds at the moment. about the basketball game.
If you could link to that, that would be fantastic. Multiple people are putting that in the feed. There is a game tonight. Common sense would suggest that game would be canceled this evening. It is. Multiple people are confirming it. I'm looking at the schedule. The game against Northern Iowa, 8 o'clock tip tonight, John Paul Jones Arena, has been canceled. Tonight's basketball game, 8 o'clock, Northern Iowa, has been canceled. John Paul Jones Arena. That news just released here. Thank you, Scott and Kevin. Appreciate that. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Grayson. Thank you, guys. We're adapting on the fly, literally in a live setting. Matt Bascom. I will read what you just linked to. Appreciate that link. Let's see. Deshaun Perry, linebacker. Lavelle Davis, wide receiver. Devin Chandler, wide receiver. Those confirmed murdered. The two other hospitalized players are also football players. Multiple media outlets reporting. Classes canceled today at the University of Virginia. The shelter-in-place order has been lifted.
Suspect has been placed under custody.
Suspect is in custody. Absolutely. The FBI was on the scene this morning. Multiple media outlets confirming the FBI was on the scene today in Charlottesville this morning. Jones is a former UVA football player, a walk-on. Out of curiosity, we wonder if hazing was an issue.
Well, I mean, Longo doesn't, I know him well enough to know he doesn't say anything without a reason. So that's a good indicator that that's probably the path that they're looking at.
More, thank you, Bascom, Matt Bascom, for that link. Appreciate that. If you see something that needs to be reported to the community, please put it in the feed. Please have the content that's in the feed backed by media outlets. This is from Scott Aaronworth. Scott, you've been fantastic through this, the attorney. The bodies were found inside a charter bus where they had been for the day, enjoying the school activities, having a meal together, and coming back to grounds. That's what Longo said during the press conference. Someone amongst them chose to do an act of violence. We found them dead inside the bus.
So I can add some clarity to that because the Longo said the third victim perished at the hospital, not in the bus. So two of the victims perished in the bus. So let's see. Hold on a second here. It's about ready to go live.
Tim Longo said the suspect had previously been under investigation. I saw the DM, Kevin Yancey. I saw it. I appreciate that. I'm only going to relay. I've gotten a lot of DMs like this, Kevin Yancey, and I don't doubt that you're right. I have complete confidence in you, and you've proven your value multiple times on the show, sir. I have tremendous respect for you. However, I'm only acknowledging on the talk show and this network information backed by media outlets, sir. Scott Aaronworth is offering a summary of the Longo press conference. People are asking for the link to the football press conference. If you have that, Keith, give us that.
Yeah,
link
so
in a second.
this is...
What's the link, the direct link to the football conference press conference?
I'm trying to find that for you. I'm not as technical as everybody else.
Scott's summarizing the Longo press conference.
So basically, this is just a feed that popped up on my New York Times feed. Let me see what I can do if I can get you a link here.
Summary from Tim Longo. This is Longo's words from the press conference. The suspect, Mr. Jones, came to the attention of the University of Virginia Threat Assessment Team in the fall of 2022. Back in September 2022, our Office of Student Affairs reported to the multidisciplinary threat assessment team that Mr. Jones, they received information that Mr. Jones had made a comment about possessing a gun into a person that was unaffiliated with the university. That reporting person, unaffiliated with the university, to the best of our knowledge, never saw the gun. The comment about Mr. Jones owning a gun was not made in conjunction with any threats. So as early, and this is directly from Tim Longo's press conference, September 2022, the Office of Student Affairs reported to the multidisciplinary threat assessment team that Mr. Jones, the suspect, was making comments of owning a gun. Okay, so you're talking about October, November, a couple of months since he's made the statement of owning the gun. Michelle, you're exactly right. The wide receiver, Chandler, died at the hospital. That's exactly right. He's a transfer from Wisconsin. A link to that presser, Keith, if you have that.
I'm working on it.
Anything you want to get out to the community there, J-Dubs, please jump in if there's something that you have, sir. The press conference that just transpired at 11 a.m., you can find at virginia.edu/live. That's the archived press conference that Longo. Thank you, Chad Wood. You're exactly right. Tonight's basketball game has been canceled against Northern Iowa. 8 o'clock tip, John Paul Jones Arena canceled. The next basketball game for the University of Virginia this Friday, Las Vegas against Baylor in the Continental Tire main event on national television. The archived version of the press conference that just happened with Tim Longo and President Jim Ryan can be found at virginia.edu/live. virginia.edu/live. Tim Longo dressed in a navy blue suit with a navy blue, Jim Ryan, Jim Ryan in a navy blue suit and a navy blue tie. Certainly looks tired from a sleepless night. Tim Longo dressed in his university police department uniform. The chief of the university, Tim Longo.
So I'm not being much help here. This is directly from my New York Times app, and I do not know how to get a link off of that. So this was a push.
Are you sure the press conference is happening with the football team? Okay. That's the University of Virginia. You want to help them with that, J-Dubs?
As soon as somebody comes to this.
Yeah, let's let J-Dubs take a bus there. Take a look there. And anything you're seeing, Kelly, multiple people are asking. Kelly, we're wondering the same here with the football team, where that press conference will happen. Jump in with comments, please.
Thank you. Well,
you got it, J-Dubs?
I'm waiting until somebody comes to the podium to confirm this.
Okay, fantastic. We'll follow your lead there. What is the, can you give me the link?
I'll text it to you. I'll text it to you, Jerry.
Thank you, Judah. And then I can take what you text to the viewers and listeners here. Appreciate you adapting on the fly, Wickhauer. Just a heartbreaking scenario here in Charlottesville. Neil Williamson, thank you there. All right, I will report that now. Neil Williamson. Appreciate that, Neil Williamson. This is now backed by a media outlet. A reporter with NBC 12 sister station WAFB in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, is confirming that running back Mike Hollins is one of the injured players. Mike Hollins, one of the injured players. This, according to WAFB in Baton Rouge. He is one of those injured in a shooting at the University of Virginia. WAFB Channel 9 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. That's fresh news for you here. Thank you, Neil Williamson. I appreciate you, sir. I'm comfortable reporting this since this is backed by a media outlet who has his journalistic integrity and credibility on the line. We now know that Lavelle Davis, a wide receiver, has been murdered. Devin Chandler, a transfer from Wisconsin, a wide receiver, also murdered. Deshaun Perry, a linebacker, murdered. Mike Hollins, a key contributor in the backfield, a running back, one of those injured. One other player has been injured as well. I'm hearing this members of the wide receiving corps, but until I see that from a credible media outlet, I will not report what I'm hearing with the second injured player.
So that link just went dead, so I'm not so sure that was an actual live.
Yeah. We're giving you updates in real time. Please keep them coming. You can DM me, text, at me on Twitter, email. We'll happily relay it on air as long as this is backed by credible news outlets. The Charlottesville and Central Virginia community, much of the Commonwealth, in a sense and stage and mentality of heartbreak as we make sense of senseless violence and another school shooting that has fans and parents and players absolutely heartbroken. Chad Wood, I've heard the same thing about that, about the second injured player, but until a media outlet reports the second injured player's name, I do not want to pass that along to the viewers and listeners. Kelly, I'll follow your lead on anything that comes from that. I appreciate that, KJ, from you. We now have official confirmation that Mike Hollins is one of the 2 injured players in the shooting. We have WAFB TV Channel 9 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, currently reporting that Mike Hollins, the running back, is among those injured in the shooting last night at the University of Virginia. Thank you, Chad. I appreciate you, sir. Chad Wood. Quite a bit, sir. You've contributed to the show. Viewers and listeners, you guys are contributing significantly to today's show. We are crowdsourcing content and news. We're aggregating it on one platform and we're relaying it to the community. In a lot of ways, this is the future of local news as big box brands slash budgets and make it difficult to maintain talent on local payrolls. Anything you are seeing, Keith Smith, that you'd like to get out to the community?
No, sir. So I do want to apologize on that live feed. It was some sort of continuous loop, so that never generated into anything. And I'm just tracking my New York Times.
I would go with some
tweet.
of the local outlets.
Yep.
For content here. Jump on Twitter. A lot of it's originating
Yes,
there
sir.
if you
That's
could.
what I'm on Twitter right now.
A lot of it's originating here. I want to highlight the value of local reporters here. Local reporters here. Underpaid, but certainly not undervalued. Local reporters standing in freezing cold weather, updating the community throughout this 12, 13-hour saga. Daily Progress, job well done. NBC 29, job well done.
CBS 19, I'm following at the moment.
Interstate 64 is at a standstill. Multiple people are showing the I-64 webcam for us here. If there's any good news from this, is the suspect is in custody. Good news is relative. I completely understand that, but the suspect is in custody. The lockdown has been lifted. Students, please call your parents as soon as possible. You'd like to jump in with anything, Keith?
No, I'm just going to echo that. Please reach out to your parents as parents. Let everybody know you're okay and safe. I'm just following a couple of different Twitter accounts here, and I have not seen anything new other than what you have been reporting, which was custody of the suspect, and the hazing thing keeps to be coming up on some of my Twitter friends. Twitter accounts here that I'm taking a look at, and I think the next step is, as you said earlier, the who, what, when, and why. We're going to start getting into the why portion of this at the moment, and but the good news is he's in custody, and that everybody can rest at ease. Hopefully, get back to somewhat of a normal life. It's as I'm following this and listening to the feeds coming in here. This is going to mature, and this is going to move along. I think the big question I'm asking myself was he on the class trip or not? And then, of course, for our attorney friend there, does that automatically help the first degree murder? But if that's the case, what is this person doing carrying a weapon on a bus to go to D.C.?
I appreciate you as well, Lee Elberson. Thank you kindly.
Yeah, well done, Mr. Miller. Well done.
Here's how the story is going to mature. I've been in the news business since I was 19. I guess that's 22 years now. Stories like this, the first phase of the news cycle is the who, what, when, where, and why of the crime. We have the who.
We have the what.
We have the where. We have the how and what.
Why?
The next step is the why. Why is often an aspect of phase 2 of the news cycle. Questions that journalists will be asking: why was this murder? Why did these murders happen? Why did this mass shooting take place? Was it motivated by something that happened in the locker room, within the culture of the program? Was it hazing related? The word hazing was utilized by University Police Department Chief Tim Longo. Why did this student have a gun in his possession? Why was this student still enrolled at the University of Virginia if in September of this year there was conversations about him having a gun? If in September of this year officials at the University of Virginia knew this man had a gun or was alleged to have a gun?
Yeah.
These are natural questions.
They never determined, according to, and I'm reading some of my notes from Longo's press conference. He specifically said they never found one, right? So it was rumored to have it, but he also said in the same thing that he was charged with a concealed weapon back in December of 2021 on that end of it, and he did make it a point to note why he did not report that in December, well, actually when he was in school. But there was a threat assessment team which is pretty robust. It includes quite a few departments, to include the police department as part of it, as Longo was explaining, Chief Longo was explaining it. And I think the question will be, why was there a more robust action taken at that particular time? And I suspect when that information gets out, it probably didn't raise to a certain point where they could actually take action on it. But when he used the words, "this suspect's been on our radar," it's very telltale language from somebody in law enforcement. So I think as this story develops, back to your why, I think we're going to obviously find a lot more out as we move along.
The third evolution of this story, viewers and listeners, we're in the first phase, the who, what, when, and how. The second phase, from my experience, is the why. The third evolution of the story is the sociology and anthropology of the story. Notice how a story like this has captivated the news cycle and certainly has caught the attention of many in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. Notice how a similar story with a murder on the downtown mall did the same. Ask yourself why the stories or the murders and the crimes that happen in historically black neighborhoods, financially margined neighborhoods, do not drive the same media attention. Why do they not capture the same momentum in the news cycle? Over the weekend, you had a shooting on Hardy Drive. Hardy Drive, a historical African-American neighborhood, financially margined neighborhood. That shooting did not dominate the news cycle, captured very little attention of the news cycle. Ask yourself, why do stories that happen in impoverished neighborhoods rarely register on the news cycle radar, while stories that crimes committed in the downtown mall, in the parking lot of the Omni, or in the grounds at the University of Virginia, they do capture the attention and drive the news cycle? That is the third phase of stories like this.
When do we get to the how? How to prevent this? Is that the fourth phase?
That's usually part of the third phase.
Part of the third phase.
So managing editors, those that run newsrooms and allocate the human capital to cover news, what they're doing now is they're huddling with their talent, their reporters and their on-air talent, and they're saying, get us the facts. Get us the facts online, get us the facts on screen. Once the facts are out there, the managing editors are going to their talent and saying, what's the next level of the story? How does a student at the University of Virginia have a gun? If this student was utilizing having gun in September of this year and utilizing it for retribution in any capacity, why was this student still allowed to commit a crime like this months later, a couple of months later?
So let's go to the Hardy Drive. Charlottesville, this is from November 12th, updated at 8:13 p.m. from NBC 29. Charlottesville police are investigating a shooting that reportedly left a juvenile, that means a young person, with multiple gunshot wounds, according to the press release. It happened at 800 block of 8 Hardy Drive at 5:54 Saturday p.m. Police do not have description of the suspects, asking for anyone for information to give them a call. So if somebody, let's see if we can get another bad guy here. 434-970-3280. So as of 8:13 on November 12th, there was no more update on that. But to your point, there was a young person shot at 5:54 in Charlottesville. And other than what we're doing right now, it's not talked about too much.
I mean, someone was shot on Saturday in the daytime in a historically African-American neighborhood, a financially margined neighborhood, and the news allocated 5 sentences to the shooting.
And
look at what we're doing.
A juvenile, no less.
With the shooting at the University of Virginia.
Juvenile.
Look at the downtown mall shooting and how it captured the attention. That involved one person, the shooting on the downtown mall. And it dominated the news cycle for an entire week. One person being murdered on the downtown mall. It shows you the anthropology and the sociology of news. To reiterate another fact, thank you, Scott, tonight's game against Northern Iowa, Virginia basketball, John Paul Jones Arena, has been canceled. I would imagine, and I don't know for certain, that the cancellation of Virginia football and its 2022 season is on the near horizon. You got Mike Collins, a contributor in the backfield, in the hospital with an injury. Lavelle Davis, murdered. You have Deshaun Perry, a linebacker, murdered, and Devin Chandler murdered.
I'm just taking a quick Google search on shootings in the city of Charlottesville in 2022. Interesting. You know what? I spent a lot of time in GIS. I did not realize in GIS there's a Charlottesville Police Department crime map. Did you know that?
I did.
I did not know that.
We utilize that crime map often in the news business. And it's searchable.
That's literally doing it as we speak. Arson, simple assault, a great aggravated assault, burglary.
Catherine, that's a great question. Catherine Lochner, I respect you tremendously. She says, is the difference in coverage perhaps due to one incident involving minors versus the downtown mall incident was all adults? I wish I could say that was the case. I think the unfortunate nature of where we are in a society, if a crime like murder happens in a downtown mall setting, which is the crown jewel of the jurisdiction, it's going to get attention. If murder happens in a historically impoverished neighborhood where crime is consistent and repetitive, community members often overlook it. And I'll take it a step further. Another unfortunate nature of what's happening in society today is if crime is compartmentalized to certain pockets of the community, people are willing to take it as business as usual. And that's terribly unfortunate. We must ask ourselves why crime, any capacity, no matter the zip code, the street address, the block, where it's located, why it's happening, and treat it with the same vigor and attention and concern as if the crime happened at the grounds at the University of Virginia or at the crown jewel of Charlottesville, the downtown mall.
I'm learning here. I've never actually used this police department crime map. It's
Kevin Higgins, I think
Wow.
it's going to be taken out of his hands. I do not think the coach is going to have any say whether the season is allowed to be played or not. This is above Tony Elliott's pay grade.
Yeah, no.
This is in the hands of Jim Ryan, the athletic director, and the board of visitors of whether this season continues or not. And here are some elements working against the 2022 season. The team is not bowl eligible anymore. The stadium is half empty.
Yeah.
And the team is not performing well.
Well, just out of respect for the people who passed, who were murdered, I'm confident President Ryan will say, yeah, we're done. We need to pay respect. I think the why is going to be very hard looked at. Why this happened, why we got to this point in it. But I'm just looking over the last 30 days, and I didn't select the offenses, quite a few of them. But if you take a look at that little map there in the last 30 days, and it goes everything from arson all the way up to theft and larceny, shot, fires, robbery. It's a rather full map of icons.
And where does it happen?
Oh my! Well, yeah.
Where do they compartmentalize
Yeah.
to?
If you look at the map, most of the numbers.
That's called a heat map.
Yeah, most of them are in the neighborhoods as you outlined. Very rarely do you see them up in more affluent neighborhoods. Is a better choice of word.
And when they do happen in affluent neighborhoods, what happens?
Well, we talk about them.
Exactly.
We're not talking about.
Perfect example of this is the murder in Stony Point. It was a domestic dispute. And in this domestic dispute, Shauna Marie Natalie Murphy murdered her boyfriend, Matthew Sean Farrell. And this Stony Point domestic dispute murder, the murder of Matthew Sean Farrell, captured and drove the news cycle for about a week. The murders that are happening in historically impoverished neighborhoods do not even register on the news cycle besides 15, maybe 30 seconds in local news broadcasts. Keith Smith just identified, what did you identify on that heat map for the city of Charlottesville crime?
I've just been able to narrow it down to shots fired. So in the last 30 days, from 10/15 to 11/14, at least according to this GIS, there was 2 incidents in the last 30 days. The downtown mall, which you talked about, and then there was one over on 6th Street, with shots fired. Interesting. It's titled, the offense is shot fired illegal hunting on the 900th block of 1st Street Southwest, reported on 11/5 at 12:40 a.m. I don't understand shots fired illegal hunting in the middle of Charlottesville, but that's what they're doing. So it's so I take that back. So the offense together is called shot fire / illegal hunting. So this shot fired is what we're talking about. And then there was another one on 1026 on the 1400 block of Monticello Avenue at 4:55 p.m. So that's another day shooting on that end of it. Let me see if I can go further back past 6 months.
Another aspect of the news cycle that will be discussed is police. Departments are tremendously understaffed. Tremendously understaffed. And there is undoubtedly a defund the police movement that is still front and center and back with momentum. As crime increases, and no one is saying that if we have a fully funded department, I want to reiterate this.
Yeah, that would have not.
I am not saying that if we have a fully funded department that this mass shooting would not have happened. That is not what I'm saying at all. And don't misconstrue my words and don't manipulate what I have to say. However, an aspect of this story undoubtedly will involve departments that are understaffed, police departments that are understaffed.
So 5:18 to 11:14. I'm just giving a quick count here.
What exactly are you doing?
Shooting. Over 20 shootings in the last 6 months.
In Charlottesville City?
Charlottesville City. If you look at the map that I'm looking at.
Are these shots fired incidents?
Shot fires, according to GIS, shot fires.
Okay, shots fired, are we talking people injured by bullets?
No, this is just shot fired. This is, as it's reading, the offense is shot fired, illegal hunting. So when you look at the map, but to your point, most of them are on the south side of the downtown mall. We're looking at Cherry Avenue, Forest Avenue, Ridge Avenue, First Street, Avon, Belmont. Very few. There's only one up in the north side of town. There's going to be two on the north side of town off of Rugby and off of Albemarle Street. And then there's one over by the university off of Stribling. Again, it's shot fire. So I'm learning how to use this as we're doing this. There was a shooting on Stribling on the 200 block of Stribling, shots fired.
I don't know what that means. I'd have to dig into it a little further. But that was at 7:31 p.m. on 10/14. But if you look at the map, it's rather interesting.
You see the text that just came in there, Judah? If you could look into that.
So between Hardy, Page, and 10th Southwest, in the last 6 months, just that little triangle right there, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shot fired incidents according to this map.
Oh, man. I want to emphasize this, too, for all those that are watching the show. This is not these circumstances. Now, a shooting like this at the University of Virginia doesn't happen everywhere. Okay? That doesn't happen everywhere. And the rally we saw at August 12, 2017 doesn't happen everywhere either. But a lot of the elements, crime that Charlottesville is dealing with do happen in other communities. It's not unique to Charlottesville. The tough aspect of what's happening is the national news notoriety that's transpiring. A12 2017 dominated the national news cycle. Yardley Love, the lacrosse player who was murdered by her boyfriend, dominated the news cycle, national. Hannah Graham dominated the news cycle. This is all over the news cycle. Charlottesville, over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, has found itself front and center in the national news cycle for unfortunate reasons. We can't seem to get out of it. Mayor Nikia Walker's poem, where she compared the city to graphic sexual violence, dominated the news cycle. We can't seem to get out of it.
So as you were speaking, I'm reading the New York Times article that reflective of the press conference that you were and Judah was able to get on live. It's interesting the way they speak about they don't have any clarity, which I'm sure is going to come out later, but they don't have any clarity to was the suspect part of the trip or not. It just reads the students had just returned from a class field trip in Washington D.C. So my suspicion is I have a feeling he was on that bus on the way for that trip, but that's just a guess based on reading this particular article.
I don't think tremendous respect for you, Mayor of Greenwood. You know I have tremendous respect for you, Kev. I don't think whether this season happens or not is in the hands of Tony Elliott.
No.
This is way above his pay grade here.
And the question is just out of respect, they shouldn't. Right? In my opinion. I'm confident that, I can't see at least the next game coming up. I mean, one could think back to 9/11. We went back to baseball games and pretty quickly right after 9/11. But of course, that's a different circumstance than this is. I just can't.
Completely different circumstances.
I can't see that it's.
They've already canceled tonight's basketball game, and we're just a few days away from Saturday's home football game.
Yeah.
I just don't see. I understand that. Neil, that's a great question. If they were competing for a bowl game, would that change the university's thinking? You know what? It would. If they were bowl eligible, the university would look at it completely differently.
I don't think it would change this Saturday's game.
And that's unfortunate. Well, if they had bowl eligibility on the line, I think it may. Because of the unfortunate nature of money driving decision making, and bowl eligibility means millions of dollars. This team, unfortunately, is playing in front of half-empty stadiums at best. I mean, if you were at the Pittsburgh game or you watched the Pittsburgh game on Saturday, as the players were running off the field at Scott Stadium, they were being booed by the very few people in attendance.
Let me ask you a question. If they did play the game this Saturday, would you go?
If University of Virginia was playing a football game this Saturday, would I go? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much the same way you're sitting here today.
I mean,
I would go.
I mean, we support this team.
Well, it would be a sign of support of our city.
It was aggravating to hear against Pittsburgh as the team was running off the field that they were being booed by fans.
That's just wrong.
These are not professional players that are making millions of dollars. These are student athletes that are unpaid outside of maybe a scholarship money or in some circumstances a little bit of NIL money. To boo in your home stadium teenagers running off a field to a locker room was...
As a father of a former Division I athlete, Neil Williamson, who's the father of a former Division I athlete, these athletes, I know I used to bring my daughter to the swimming pool at 5:30 in the morning. I know Neil has spent hours and hours helping their son. To boo them is just, as our British friends would say, poor form and rather low class, to be honest with you.
And it's swimming is, and I'm a huge fan of what the swimmers do.
There's only parents that show up for that.
Swimmers aren't in front of 25,000 people.
They're not. They're not.
Yeah, it's only parents that show up for that.
Believe me, I know that firsthand. And
it's free to go.
It's free to go. It's only families and all that. But what I was speaking to is the heart that these student athletes have put in years and years and years and years to get to that level, regardless if 25,000 people are watching or just Keith and Yona Smith are watching their daughter swim. As one parent that has went through this, and I know Neil well enough to know I know he feels the same way too. To have that's disheartening. That would just show a little affection, show a little respect. At least thank them for their effort.
I grew up going to Zabel Stadium and watching Jimmy Laycock and the William and Mary Tribe play football. One of the things we did as a family was to park in the Food Lion parking lot just about a mile or so away from Zabel Stadium and walk father, mother, my brother and I to Zabel Stadium to watch the Tribe play. And I want to emphasize the importance of supporting this team and supporting the program. I think
it should happen regardless.
I think this community is continuing to search for itself and for its identity. And I think this community is continuing to ask, why us again? How's this happening to us again? And we're mourning, and we're vulnerable and uncertain. And we need to figure out solutions, and those solutions are tied to prioritizing communication, mental health awareness, conversations with social workers and therapists and counselors, minimizing screen time, and realizing that impressionable teenagers and young adults are extremely vulnerable right now.
So if you know a UVA student, reach out to them. Ask them how they're feeling today. What can we do? Can we talk to them? There's a couple of, I wrote some notes down. There's a couple of UVA tennis players that my wife and I are loosely connected with. We're going to reach out to them and say, what can we do for you today? If you want to talk, want to have a cup of coffee, we're here. So if you know anybody out there, reach out to them. Just be a sounding board for them to listen.
We'll
speak.
We'll head off air now.
Yep.
Jude, I want to pause, recollect, and then I'll come on again later today. I want to take care of some things that we need to take care of. 2 hours and 15 minutes straight here without a break. We'll see if we can bring some more information to you later in the day. As you can imagine, 2 hours and 15 minutes straight of talking is arduous to the vocal cords. We'll take a breath, we'll reconvene, and we'll connect with you again through the I Love CVille network. Appreciate you going the extra mile for us here, Keith.
No, I'm honored to sit across the table from you. I've said it before, I'll keep on saying it. I'm just flat out honored.
Thank you. Judah, thank you for adapting on the fly with so much. As news continues to come in, we'll continue to relay it to you. Keith Smith, Judah Wickower, Jerry Miller. I will let everybody know when we come back on. I'm seeing the multiple comments coming in for a heads up when we come back on. We will do our best to come on here on shortly. Take care. And Charlottesville. Together we stand as we navigate another national story.
Tragedy.